Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and today we are talking with a couple of more nominees that are in for the Champions in Industry Awards that we're holding December 3rd. That's on a Monday from 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. at the Cable Center. Be sure to sign up for that award ceremony if you haven't already at cobrt.com/events. Go to the December 3rd calendar page and you can sign up right there for the events. But I have with me one of our manufacturing nominees by phone because he is in Fort Morgan, and so we have reached across Colorado to get our nominees in. And so this is Barry Walter Jr. He is the COO, sometimes the acting CEO for the Barry Walter Senior Company. So Barry, how are you doing this today?
Doing well, Alex. Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Again, your company is Barry Walter Senior Company. Your name is Barry Walter Jr. So I'm imagining there's a little bit of a family
Barry Walter
business.
Jr. Yeah. So there's a little bit of name in there, and probably some nepotism in my position, but I've come by it honestly. I started out working for my father 25 years ago on the machine shop floor. So I started at the bottom and worked my way through over the last 25 years.
That is wonderful. And we were actually talking off air a little bit. You have 3 younger brothers that are also involved with the business. And you mentioned that none of you really wanted to get into the family business, but you all ended up.
Yeah. All of us said that we would never work for the family business. It was one of those things growing up. We had to sweep floors, spin chips, rape chips, wash parts, assemble parts. We manufacture replacement plumbing parts and sell to wholesalers, repackagers, and plumbing supply houses throughout the country. So we're a B2B company, and we are very specific, made to stock. And growing up, we were doing assembly all the time. All of our summers, the job you had in the summer was working for the family business. And so we all went and got degrees and went someplace else in our careers. And yet we all ended up back afterwards because we realized that that wasn't so bad.
Right. I think sometimes you need to go out and get away from the family business to learn and appreciate what you're doing. Yeah,
that brings up a funny little story. I always said I wasn't going to work for the family business because I'm watching my father as I grew up put in 60 hours a week. I said, well, sheesh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to find a job that's a 40-hour-a-week job. And he called me when I was working 2 40-hour-a-week jobs, 2 full-time jobs. He called me up and said, so, now what do you think? And I was like, yeah, maybe I should come back.
Well, and it's not
a little
easy.
Different perspective once you get out in the real world.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's one of those that hits close to home that even if you find that 40-hour work week job, sometimes you need to get other jobs to make ends meet, depending on where you live, or, sometimes it's just not that satisfying, and so you crave something else anyway, right?
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit more about Barry Walter Senior Company. So as you mentioned, you make plumbing parts, so you are a B2B company.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, when did your father found the company, and how long have you been going, and what do you have going on right now?
I'm actually 3rd generation. My grandfather was in World War II, and after the war, he was a machinist in the Navy. After the war, he ended up working at a plumbing supply house in Los Angeles in Southern California. And there was a lot of the plumbing manufacturers, the original ones that had gone out of business from the war, from the Depression, just attrition, and so they were no longer around, so you couldn't get the parts anymore. So he talked his boss into buying a machine. And my grandfather was amazing at making things. He could engineer machines, automate things, just really good at making things. And he was, though, a terrible businessman. So he ended up taking on partner after partner, ended up closing the business. My dad bought up all the assets because he had been working for the business. and started on his own. And that was 31 years ago. And then 25 years ago, we moved it to, 24 years next month, we moved it to Fort Morgan from Los Angeles. So we've grown since then. We're about 30 full-time team members. We've got 13 CNC lathes. We go through about 7,000 pounds of brass a week. I used to be able to say we were the largest user of brass in the state of Colorado, but last I heard, Schlage Lock was bringing things back into, I don't know if they've done it all yet, but they were sourcing things back into their facility down in Colorado Springs, and so then they were going to be passing us.
Wow. So I would imagine that the move from Southern California to Colorado was a bit of a culture shock for you guys, to say the least, right?
Yeah, I think it was more of a culture shock for my parents than it was for anyone else. I went to college in Nebraska, so I ended up having my culture shock long before the company moved to Colorado, to Fort Morgan, Colorado. And, my parents they decided that they'd had enough of the urban environment, themselves being born and raised in Los Angeles. So they were ready to try the rural thing. And so and it's produced its own challenges, being out in Fort Morgan. We don't have a bunch of CNC machines that are machine shops that are throughout the city that you can take other CNC machinists. So all of our we've got 11 CNC operators, and all of them have been trained in-house. None of them were CNC operators before they came to work for us. We hire for culture and train for skill.
Yes, hire for culture and train for skill. That was the other thing that we talked off air about. If you don't mind going into the nuance of this, because that gives you an advantage that you aren't hiring CNC operators, right?
Right. I think so. I believe so. If you look at right now manufacturing in Colorado, in the U.S., there's a shortage of skilled labor. There's a shortage of skilled labor for pretty much any of those skilled labor fields, plumbing, electricians, those type of fields are all feeling that pinch. We have, because of where we are at, we have come about this a little bit of a different perspective. We've decided that, we're not going to find CNC operators unless we find them from another state, another city, and move them. And then you don't have the opportunity to really know enough about them. So we've got a strenuous hiring process. It takes an average of 2 months and 4 interviews for someone to become a team member, and we're not looking for that CNC operator. We're looking for humble, hungry, and smart. We're looking for the problem-solving skills, the critical thinking skills, social skills. And if we can find humble, hungry, smart, and those skills, we're going to be able to find a rock star, and they're going to be just fine as a CNC operator.
How many humble, hungry, and smart employees do you currently have?
I would say that we have humble, hungry, and smart. We've all got strengths, in certain areas and weaknesses in others. But I would say that all of our team right now is humble, hungry, and smart. And we've worked at that too, though. I mean, we talk about it as a team when we've got two team meetings a month, a team building meeting and a team recognition meeting. And we talk about that culture when we have a team building meeting. We talk about that desire for what we want to be as a team. You spend more time awake with these people than you do your own spouse. So to be able to have a good culture with good communication, over communicating, which you can never do, have those type of nuances inside the organization where people are, humble is that you're not scared of anything, but you're willing to take blame when it's your fault. Hungry is you want to get better, and smart is you can see other people for what they are, for what they need, for how to communicate to them. So those are the important things that we're looking for when it comes to that personality.
Which are, I think those are great traits, and I love that you broke that down for me, because smart doesn't necessarily mean having the exact knowledge of knowing how to do those skills, right? That's what you teach.
People smart is more important than book smart. Common sense is more important than smart. It's being able to understand how to communicate things and understand what somebody else is trying to tell you. Those are the keys to the smart part.
Well, it seems like you've invested a lot of time. You mentioned that it takes 2 months and about 4 interviews before you'll hire somebody on. I imagine that your team reflects that and the great work that they do. Do you mind talking a little bit about your team that you've got and some projects maybe? Yeah.
A lot of the people that we have been referred to by other team members, and a lot of team members won't refer people, even if they're family or friends, because they don't want them bringing their culture into our culture. You're going to have a culture as an organization, so you either define it or it defines you. And so it's one of the things we try to make sure we define.
I love that. You either define it or it defines you. And it's cool to hear that even your employees, if they know that their buddy needs a job, they're still not going to put them in there if they don't think they're a right fit. And that has to speak volumes for the quality employees that you have, right? So obviously you've got a really good team there. Talk a little bit more about them and all the projects that you've got going on.
So, projects, yeah. Right now we're doing a lot of cross training over the next 2 months. We typically run 2 shifts. Our first core value, got 5 core values. The first core value is family first, and one of the things we talk about that relates to that core value is working for us. You should have the time not just to go to your kids' activities, you should be able to participate or lead in them. So you have that, because we're not a storefront, you have that a flexibility in your schedule, which you should be able to, leave early, come in late, whatever, to be able to go to those things. So right now with our 2 shifts, we're actually combining them for these last 2 months to be able to do some cross training, because we've got, I said 13 lathes, 3 stars, 4 Sagamis, or 3 Sagamis, a bunch of Mianos, and different people know different things on the machines, and so we're trying to do some cross-training over the next couple months by bringing in the evening crew and having basically too many people there during these holiday seasons to be able to have 2 people on a machine to show them some things. So doing some growth right now as far as learning.
I love that. Well, and that helps, right? Because as you mentioned, one of those 5 core values is family first, and not just being able to get the time off to make it to the baseball game. If you want to be a coach of your kid's little league team, you're saying that you should do that, right?
Yeah. So when we've had lots of different team members that have coached or led in certain activities, so that, hey, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We had one of the guys who decided he wanted to go to school for some welding, and I said, "Oh, good, I can pay for that." And he's like, "No, that means I have to help do some welding or something." And I said, "Absolutely," but he was coming in then a couple days early, so he could leave early to be able to go to the class in the afternoon. So, those are the kind of things that we should be able to do, because it's not about when you're there. It's about what you do when you're there. You just get the work done when you are there, and that's more important than anything else. It's kind of funny, like I was saying, we work with the workforce centers and the schools around Northeast Colorado. I'm the head of the sector partnership. They call it the industry champion of the manufacturing sector partnership for Northeast Colorado. And when workforce brings in kids or somebody for a tour, one of the things they always try to hammer home with these potential, somebody that's going to be going into a workforce is, and you got to be on time. And so then, and I always tell them, I said, don't ask those kind of questions around us, because we don't care if somebody's 5 minutes late. If they're 15 minutes late, they better be texting, their team leader and letting them know. But we're not concerned with when you show up. It's the quality of the work you put in when you get there.
I wholeheartedly agree. Across any industry, that should be the norm. Sadly, it is not. But I love that you do that for your team. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit in this last 7 or so minutes. And you touched on it briefly there in that last little story, but the Northeast Colorado Manufacturing Partnership, you guys lovingly call it NECOM.
NECOM,
yes. So you're one of the first industry leaders to join that. So tell me all about that.
Yeah, we had the Manufacturing Pathways Coordinator from MCC, our local community college. We have 2 community colleges here in Northeast Colorado. And the Manufacturing Pathways Coordinator came to me and said, hey, we're interested in starting this sector partnership in manufacturing for Northeast Colorado. And I'm like, what's that? And she explained it to me, and it hit home. It was right about, it was all about the things that I'm passionate about. Manufacturing, strengthening your communities, not losing talent to the Front Range or to other states, keeping people in the community aware of the true careers and career pathways that are out there in Northeast Colorado. And we've got some amazing manufacturers in Northeast Colorado, from big ones like Cargill and Leprino to medium-sized ones, or I guess to me on the larger size, like Nichols Tillage and Tools, to small ones like myself or Agra Inject out in Yuma. They're diverse places that are working in their communities to strengthen the communities, because as a manufacturer, we create wealth, so we bring that wealth back into our communities, and it's just a great opportunity for a career. So yeah, the career, the NECOM, the Manufacturing Sector Partnership, allows us to work with workforce, with the schools to introduce kids to manufacturing. We do a lot of tours. We do summer classes on skills, and we do a robotics camp. We do a camp on the what they call them the soft skills. Now they're starting to change them to essential skills, and it's just a great opportunity for us to introduce youth to different career pathways.
Which is awesome. And we talked a little bit earlier in the segment about how your customers, again, you manufacture plumbing parts, so B2B business, B2B company. And so you see your customers also slacking with those skilled labor, right? And so getting on this forefront.
Yeah, we see that in all skilled labor around the country. We spent 40 years saying to our kids, you have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. And so now we've got to the point where, and it's great if you're going to be a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, an engineer, I want you to go to college. If you're going to operate on me, I want you to have lots of good education. But when it comes to being an electrician, when it comes to being a lineman or a plumber, you can learn those skills on the job. You don't have to go $80,000 in debt. You can get paid while you learn that. We've got a one of our team leaders, one of our CNC machine operators, has been with us, I believe, for 16 years since he was 18. He owns 2 cars, a house, and a boat, and he's debt free with all those things. And that's because he didn't need to go into debt. He didn't start out in debt. He started out with a job and worked his way from an entry-level position to a CNC, operator that paid for things with cash.
Which I think is probably the most underrated part about the skills labor force that people miss, right? You're making money immediately. You're learning on the job. And yes, occasionally you'll have to pay for a certificate here or there, but typically your company will do that if you've already been at a good company for a while. And you've already got some cash in your pocket to be able to pay for that for yourself if your company doesn't pay for that.
Yep. I've got customers. My biggest customers are in New York and LA, and so I go and visit. I'm going to be in Arizona and Nevada in about 2 weeks visiting customers, and it's always the same thing. My customers are always complaining that they can't find anybody can't find any good help, and I try to gently say some things about, well, what are you doing about it? As leaders in industry, we can't complain out of one side of our mouth and not be willing to do something about it. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to put some effort into it. I went to CAMA had a apprenticeship program thing that they were giving a presentation on, and the first question when NIMS was done talking about it was, what's the return on investment? And I lost it. I mean, I was furious. I was like, are you kidding me? You can't say, I can't find good help, and then what's my return on investment out of the other side of my mouth? It has to be, what am I willing to do to make the change, to be the change in my community?
Well said. Very well said. I do wholeheartedly agree with you on that point as well. I have your nomination form here in front of me, and whomever nominated you guys, again, that's anonymous on our end. They said,
me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But obviously they had lovely things to say about you guys. And one of the big things here that I see is that NECOM would not be where it is without your leadership and your skills getting it to where it is. So congratulations to you on that. I also see here that you were honored for your work at the 2018 State Sectors Academy. So tell me a little bit about that in the next minute and a half that we have here.
Okay. Yeah, we had the State Sectors Academy. It was just, last month, and in Golden, and we had I gave the keynote closing ceremony talk about what it is that we have to do as industry leaders, what we have to do as public leaders. The public has to listen to the industry, and the industry has to be willing to work with the public sector to be able to make the change and the difference. And if we don't do that, our communities are going to suffer. You can't have workforce trying to get people into the industries without knowing what industry needs. We can't work with the product that we receive from the schools unless we can tell the schools what do we need, because the product they give us are the workers, the people coming out of the schools. And so we've got to work with the schools and the junior colleges in our areas to tighten that skills gap up and make it a real opportunity for the people in our communities.
Well said. Thank you so much, Barry. Again,
Absolutely.
You are one of our nominees in the manufacturing category for our Champions in Industry Awards. Again, that is December 3rd at the Cable Center from 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Sign up for that at cobrt.com/events. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Check out Barry E. Welter Sr. Company. Go ahead and Google that so you can get more information about Barry Welter Jr. and his company. Again, congratulations on being nominated, and we wish you the best of luck.
And we'll see you at the award ceremony.
Yes, you will. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, you too.